Okay, today we are talking about word problems that involve equal groups. When you hear equal groups, what operation do you think of? Or operations?
Multiplication and division.
Multiplication and division, right. Okay, when we start breaking things up into equal groups, we are working with multiplication and division. So, word problems are going to have patterns, and each pattern is going to use a very specific equation. It's okay if you have your whiteboards ready, but don't be drawing on them yet. Word problems about combining use what operation? If it's a word problem about combining, we've seen a lot of these in our written practice. What type of equation?
Addition.
Addition. Okay, so we have the sum plus some more gives us a total. Word problems that involve separating use what operation? Subtraction. I have some, but I take away some, and now I have whatever's remaining. Okay, well, word problems about equal groups are going to be using a multiplication equation. So good job, Sammy, earlier when you said multiplication. Yes, and division. It can also involve division as well. The equal groups equation follows this pattern. So look at the green. It says number of groups times the number in each group. And that's going to give us our total. Could I rework that and do it backwards and use division? Yes, how? What is it called if I take a multiplication problem and I flip it around and now I make it division? We have a lot of problems, usually at least one problem in our written practice where I have to write 2 of one type and 2 of another type. What's it called? Starts with the F. It's 2 words.
Fact family.
Yes, fact families. Fact families are very much related. Okay, so again, why we said earlier that you can write multiplication and division equations for equal groups, it's because they're fact families. Okay, here's an example. At Lincoln School, there are 4 classes of 5th graders with 30 students in each class. All together, how many students are in the 4 classes? Please work this out on your whiteboard, how you think it should be worked out. And show me an equation. I want a horizontal equation, just like this, the number of groups times the number in each group, and then show me the total. So you can work it out vertically, but I also want you to write it out horizontally. Once you have your answer, show me your boards. If you're at home, press pause and then check your work when you're ready. Okay, a lot of you are showing me on your boards, you have this. And then the horizontal piece would be number of groups, would be 4, times the number in each group, which is 30, equals 120. What am I talking about? 120 what?
Students.
Students. Some of you had it labeled. Great job. Okay, does this problem make sense to everybody before we move on?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's my pattern again. Number of groups times number in each group to equal a total. The coach separated 48 players into 6 teams with the same number of players on each team. How many players were on each team? Think about what information you are given. Do I know the total? Do I have the number of groups? Do I know the number in each group? I want an equation. You may have to write an equation that involves a letter variable for the unknown. Then solve it. Instead of plugging in the answer, replace that answer with the variable. So this is what I'm seeing on a lot of your boards. I am seeing 48 divided by 6 equals 8. Okay, remember I'm writing a multiplication problem. The number of groups times the number in each group, which equals a total. What is 48 representing? What is 48? Is that the number of groups?
Yes, the number
Is that
of players. Total
That's the total. So my equation should end like this. Something equals 48. Okay.
48.
You've got 6 times D. Can you explain why?
Because 6 teams, and you don't know the number of players on each team. So you have to write a letter where you don't know how many players are on each team. And there's 6 teams, and if you do 48 divided by 6, it's 4, because 6 times 4 is 48.
Wait. That's not what you had before. Do that. 6 times 4 is 24. What do you multiply by 6 to get 48?
8.
Yes, 8. You got it. Okay. So very good. This is what he had on the board right here. He had this equation. He just used a D, which is perfectly fine. It's a variable. It doesn't matter what variable you use as long as you realize it stands for the number of players. Okay, so when you write the equation, because it is following this pattern, which involves multiplication, you got to make sure that you don't do a division problem. Is that how you solve it? Yes. You use the inverse operation to solve it, but this is what my equation should look like. I've got 6 teams, that's my number of groups, times how many players in each group? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find. So I used a P for players. I know the total should be 48. All right, let's look at this one. Remember my pattern, okay? Monica raked leaves and filled 28 bags. On each trip, she could carry away 4 bags with leaves. How many trips did it take Monica to carry away all the bags? Okay, on your whiteboard, write down what you think the equation is going to look like and then solve it. Ask yourself, does my answer make sense? Make sure it is reasonable. You can pause here and then play when you're ready. Y'all are awesome. Okay, some of you started out with division problems. When I corrected you, told you remember to follow the rule that you see up here. This is the pattern. I'm making a multiplication problem. So a lot of you guys ended up with something equals 28, right? 28 is the number of bags that were filled. We know that each trip she could carry away 4 bags. So a lot of you put 4 first times an unknown. Some people have a question mark there. Some people have a variable, which is just the unknown. What letter could I use for variable? Milo? B. Anything else? T for trips. Okay. I like to use a letter that represents like what I'm talking about. Is there anything wrong with using an A or a B or an X? No. You can use whatever letter you want. I just like to pick a letter that stands for what I'm solving for. I'm trying to figure out how many trips it took. So to solve this, this is what I saw on a lot of your boards at first. 28 divided by 4 equals 7. When you rewrote it this way, I then saw your answer like this. Beautiful. Y'all did awesome. Exactly what you need to be doing. Okay, your assignment. You're going to have some where you have to write equations. Please remember, if your natural reaction is to start dividing, your equation should probably be what operation? Multiplication. Good. The opposite. Okay, if your natural reaction is to solve the problem by subtracting it, then your equation should probably be what kind of equation? Addition. The inverse operation. Okay, your written practice today for lesson 21 is on pages 149 to 151. Numbers 1 through 3 are going to require you to write an equation before you solve it. You need the equation, you need an answer. Okay, are there any questions before we start?
No.
You guys are awesome. Y'all go ahead and get busy.